Hello, everyone. This is Gia, and welcome back to my weekly Dragon Oracle card series. So, last week we spent time with Water Dragon, and if there's time, if this doesn't go too long tonight, I think I do want to share some reflections about last week. I welcome you to share yours as well. Um, But today is Sunday, February 8th. The year is 2026. And the dragon card for this week is QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons. So, QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons, this is the second time um, these dragons have come through in this series. And QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons are helping us to bring firm love that resets our karmic balance, seeing all of our cords dissolved by transcendent love, enjoying our freedom from those cords, looking for the divine all around us as well as within us. So, impressions coming through. And just to say again, if you've been following, when the dragon cards appear for a multiple time, a second or a third or even a fourth time, it's really just an opportunity to reach a different layer, go a little deeper with the messages that are coming through. And so the impressions this time, they're similar, but seeming to come through with a little more clarity for me personally. But bringing firm love that resets your karmic balance. So, what is that about? So, I know sometimes when we talk about karma, it's like good or bad karma. If you do good deeds and it's from a positive intention, you'll have good karma. If it's from a negative, if your actions or behaviors are motivated by not the best of intentions, then you'll receive bad karma. What It's not quite that in this message from QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons. So what's coming through here is the notion of transcendent love. I have talked about this before. For me, in this message, transcendent love is that love without conditions, the love as a state of being rather than an expressed emotion, love as kind of not even a part of, but love as the way that we are as at our core essence when we're talking about us being these souls having these human experiences. Our natural state of being is love. This is what I believe, and this is what the message is coming through to support this notion of transcendent love as a state of being. And when love is a state of being, it does not have conditions. So QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons are helping us to remember this truth about us as who we are at our essence. And karmic balance here, again, is not the good or the bad, it's the unconditional. It is bringing us back to that unconditional neutral, bringing us back to neutral in that sense. Our karmic balance, our neutral, unconditional state of being, that karmic balance, helping us to return to that. And cords, seeing all of our cords dissolved by transcendent love. So cords in this message are the same as before. So energy cords, when you talk about them in a spiritual or energetic context, they're these invisible kind of etheric attachments that get formed between people and objects or situations, and they're energy channels. They're energy channels where, emotions and information can just pass through. So even as you're talking to someone, um, there's energy cords that are attaching to each other to help enhance the conversation. Energy cords, you can also think of them as happening. Um, when you're if you've ever had an experience like you might be talking with someone and you're like, oh, I knew you were going to say that, or I had a feeling, or you're getting a sense that, is everything okay? I'm sensing something, might be going on. Um, this is this is you picking up on the energy cords that are being exchanged between the two of you in a conversation. So some folks are really um, hypersensitive to these cords, and you can think of it relative to telepathic communication. You know how some we can develop these skills and such, but some people have um, seem to have a strength in being able to be a receptor of receiving that information, that telepathic corded communication. Others are stronger at sending the messages, right? But it's information that passes through these cords. Some of these cords represent healthy, loving connections, which is totally fine, totally appropriate. You don't want to ever like visualize severing a cord like by cutting it. But others of these cords can become draining or codependent. And sometimes they do link us to past traumas, toxic relationships, or outdated patterns. So you can see how entanglements can be a real notion, a real thing to kind of take a look at energetically. So, we do cord to our um, biological and non-biological family, parents, siblings, um, and again, they're not bad, but when they do become draining or codependent, or keep us connected to an outdated circumstance, situation, or pattern, then it is useful to kind of get to the root of where it may be connected in with your energy field and work on releasing it that way. And releasing cords we do from the inside out rather than pulling them out or cutting them off, because the root remains, right? If you don't get to the root of the weed, it will grow back. So um, that's the energetic cords. So the ones that are being referenced in this message, seeing all of our cords dissolved by transcendent love, when we are able to accept, receive, embody the supportive energy and assistance from QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons, to allow them to help us get reset back to our karmic neutral, then we will be able to return to that neutral state of love as a way of being, love as a state of being rather than an expressed emotion. And when we are able to express and be that transcendent love, um, that will be a supportive energy to help start dissolving these cords. So, um, not in a judgmental way, just in a very neutral way, not in a conditional way. but just remaining in that neutral, that grounded, neutral, heart centered place. And there's another aspect of that. Yeah, and this expression of transcendent love will naturally happen um, both as an inward expression of reverence for self as well as an outward expression uh, for others. So that will naturally happen when we are allowing and accepting and being present um, in that karmic neutral. That phrase karmic neutral seems to be coming through. Um, the other aspect of this is, when we are moving through these human experiences as souls of light, having these human experiences, when we are expressing love with conditions, um, it means that we have an attachment to an outcome of behaviors and expressions of that love, behaviors associated with that. Think about how many, um, I just think about growing up in America, how many conditions, there's like rules, right? There's a rule book on like who you're supposed to love, how you're supposed to love them, you know, and if this doesn't go this way or that goes that way or this person expresses or behaves in this certain way, then you're supposed to stop loving them. There's so many conditions. People have to look a certain way according to society for them to be worthy of love. And so these are just so many conditions. Like, I just think of myself and how many things are quote unquote wrong with me relative to those kind of conditions. Um, you know, anyhow. So yeah, there's a lot of conditions on that. Um, if you reach a certain age, like I'm in my 50s, if you reach a certain age, it might be too late for you to find your true love, or what is even true love. And then you talk about like love and soulmates and twin flames, and there's so many things that make it really challenging to remember that simply by existing, we are worthy of love. It's not even about being worthy or not worthy. We, simply by existing as souls, having these human experiences, we, that's our original way. Like, that's our original way of being. Like, when you think about um, an infant who's born into this world, they're nurtured into concepts of love and how to relate to certain people in certain ways and what love even is, rather than, you know, being reminded that what they are is love, just to begin with, just as that neutral, transcendent love that just has no conditions, that uplifting expression, that uplifting presence of love that is who we are when we're able to be in that neutral place. So Kuan Yin's pink dragons want to help us return to that place, that karmic, balanced, neutral place. And this begins in the heart center. Everything with these cards coming through is about the heart center. So moving through and expressing from and being present in that expansive state, that abundant state that is always with us, that we are learning how to recognize again, that we are reconnecting with. So the other aspect, I kind of got off point a little bit, but talking about, conditions and being attached to outcomes of certain behaviors and choices and actions and things, that in this regard is similar to how it's come up before in other cards. So, if we are being told that we are supposed to, by age 30, you're supposed to be married and have children and have a career and have a house and a white picket fence and all of this stuff. And, your partner in life is supposed to look like this or be like that, or, things like that. So when you have so many conditions like that you're trying to live up to, then you will become often it tends to lead to being hyper focused on a particular goal. Like if we're trying to live up to a particular predefined, very limiting definition of something, um, then we're going to tend to build conditions around the right way to get there, the right things to do, the right things to say, the right way to be in order to get to that goal that we were told we were supposed to be wanting to achieve. And that is, you know, very limiting because it excludes so many possibilities. And when we talk about the concepts of and the reality really of the universe being inherently abundant, and um, access to that abundance is our birthright, then, it it's counterproductive, so to speak, if you will, um, to be so hyper focused on something that you lose sight of that bigger picture, to be so hyper focused that um, you miss out on those opportunities or those divinely guided detours that actually may be leading you to something that you would have missed out on um, by, really just trying to stay on point with where what you think you need to do to get to where you think you need to go. So again, what we want isn't always what we need, kind of things come up again with that. So um, and this is not to say that it's a bad thing to plan and have goals and set goals, but thinking about, are there things in your life where maybe there might have been a way that um, your circumstance or context or upbringing or belief systems are possibly limiting your viewpoint of what's possible for you. Um, and so that's coming through with that. And so those unhealthy cords, those cords that drain, those cords that are attached to outdated patterns and such, that's what we're talking about here. um, when we open up our hearts with that love, with that neutral transcendent love as a state of being, then we allow for those cords to loosen up and fall away, and we're no longer attached to outcomes of the behaviors and patterns and things because they no longer are relevant. They're not relevant anymore. Our frequency elevates as well. So when we are in that frequency of love as a state of being, it's a higher vibrational frequency. And the lower vibrational frequencies of those outdated, misaligned energies, the traumas, the past patterns and behaviors, the old narratives that no longer serve us, the outdated definitions of ourselves, those lower vibrational frequencies that are not aligned with our true path and purpose, they can't be sustained in that higher elevated frequency of love. So that is also part of the message there. And then freedom, enjoy the freedom. So when we are in this place, when we're in this state of being, we are free from those connections that keep us limited in our expansiveness. And we will be able to then see the divinity that exists within us, around us, and we'll be able to be a reflection of that for others, and see that divinity reflected in others that is us. So, yeah, that's the message here. We're getting to a deeper level. These are basically the same messages that came through before, but we're getting to a deeper level, another layer of recognizing this within ourselves. And sometimes the energy that we are moving, that we're releasing, sometimes it just doesn't have words often. It can be from um, misaligned energy, can be in our energy field from times that we might not even have recognized that something was going on. All of our experiences have energetic signatures, and, you know, when we're not able to uh, allow for the process of the energetics of our experiences processed through us in a natural flow, in a natural way, then sometimes that some of that energy can linger. And this is relative to these cords as well. Sometimes those cords can be a part of what that lingering is, especially the cords that um, aren't serving us well anymore. And again, it's important to, or maybe not again, but it is important to recognize also that some of these things happen out of necessity, to survive a situation or circumstance. We create a pattern of behavior, or we um, develop a way of being that helps us to survive. And it's absolutely necessary and it serves a purpose. But when we have moved past and beyond that experience and it's no longer needed, um, then we can go ahead and release that. So Quan Yin'S Pink Dragons want to help us to do that by helping us to be in a receptive state so that they can help us reset our karmic balance, to reset back to neutral. And again, it's not good or bad. It's not the good or bad karma. It's just that firm love, that firm love. There's something coming through. Give me just a moment. That firm love. Okay, clarifying the pink dragons, Quan Yin'S Pink Dragons are clarifying this is not tough love in the way that one might hear it these sometimes these days. This is not tough love, like, you know, teaching somebody a lesson kind of tough love. Firm love here is when we are grounded in that truth of love as a state of being. It is steadfast, it is steady, it is grounded, it is unconditional, it is unquestionable, it is matter of fact in a sense. It is firm in the way that it doesn't accept anything other than that. So it's almost like what's coming through with this is it's almost like how dare you not recognize how beautiful you are, right? Um, you have been born into this birthright of excess of the abundant universe that is. And how it's like if this transcendent abundance of love could speak, it's almost like that's the kind of tone or language that it would have. Like, how dare you question, the divinity within yourself, how beautiful you are, that you are love. You are love. There is no question. There is no question. Um, and so that's the firmness that's coming through in this message, the firmness of the truth. The truth can't hold space for other things that aren't true, right? There's no room for that. So that's what's coming through with those words, the firm love. And so, therefore, anything that's misaligned relative to that karma, um, then it gets pushed out, it gets moved out of the way, because that state of being that is love is taking up that space. So I do see a comment, something coming through from someone. So that is something, that's a great question. If you could send a direct message to me, um, I'll reach out to you after I finish this video. I'm not certain 100% where that's coming from, but I do appreciate you asking the question. So, back to the messages here from QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons. So, they're recognizing this opportunity to help us really embody that notion of what that means. And it's something that I personally am also still working on, because there are so many conditions on just what is love. And then we are in the month of February, and it's the month of Valentine's Day, and all of this sort of commercialization of the concept. And you know if you don't have somebody in your life that you love, then you're doing something wrong. Or you know so much of our self-worth is tied up in whether or not we have a love life partner, and um, so there's just, you could go on and on and on. So Kuan Yin's Pink Dragons, bringing firm love that resets our karmic balance, seeing our cords dissolve by transcendent love, that neutral, heart-centered love that knows no conditions, that is not good nor bad, enjoying the freedom from those cords that have been dissolved, and then that allowing us to see the divinity that is reflected within each of us, um, in everything around us and within ourselves. So, thank you so much. So, if you have been following this series, I have been looking at symbols related to the messages coming through from these dragons. In my practice, symbols are um, a way to stabilize and consolidate energy that we want to look at. Sometimes it comes through as an affirmation of something positive that um, the dragons in this case want to highlight for us as something to keep in mind in a positive way to celebrate. Most often they do come through as representing energy that is no longer aligned, that will be helpful for us to release and let go of. So I will do that now. In my practice, I do readings of all kinds, and I do offer dragon card readings as well. So my name is Gia, and I'm an intuitive psychic, I'm an energy reader and healer. And so if you are interested in having a reading with me on the messages coming through from QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons, you can reach out to me this week and I will offer a discount on that reading. My 30-minute readings are typically $70, but I will offer a 50% discount on that reading if you reach out to me this week. And we can schedule it at any time. So I'll take a look at a symbol now. So as I tune in and ask the dragons for a symbol, I'm not gonna like pause the recording or anything, but I would encourage you to reflect on the messages that have come through. What does firm love mean to you? What does karmic balance mean to you? Um, are there any chords that you can potentially think of that you would like to release through returning to that present state of unconditional transcendent love? Um, are there any chords that you maybe have attached to certain things or circumstances where you're really invested in that outcome to the point where you've created so many conditions on it that maybe you are limiting the possibilities for yourself? Um, and what might that look like when you are free from those cords? Um, and reflecting on how would you describe that divinity within yourself, that love as a state of being, that divinity um, as a part of you? Can you recognize that within others, within your surroundings, and in your life? So, and I'm just going to take a moment here. I'm just going to go silent while I tune in for a moment and get this symbol. So, all right. So the symbol that wants to come through, it's more of a scene, and it's like a young child that um, has like a lollipop kind of popsicle candy on a stick, but it's broken, or their whole, and then it's cycling through to like a bouquet of flowers, but the flowers are wilting or the stems are bent, or it's the ice cream cone and the ice cream is melting, or the scoop of ice cream has fallen to the ground. So I'm just going to start healing this symbol and seeing what messages come through with this symbol. This is a symbol that is um, related to self-worth and living up to expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, feeling unworthy, or like worried that we won't be valued by others, like what that reflects from our concerns and fears about how others might feel about us. So let me go ahead and start healing this symbol. Thank you, QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons, for this sort of scene here. Today is February 8th, 2026. Just grounding this symbol to the center of the earth. In my practice, this is typically how we work with symbols. We ground it to the center of the earth. The energy of the Earth Mother is happy to receive the energy that is off balance, misaligned, and transforms that energy, transmutes that energy into healing energy that we can absorb as a stabilizing, grounding energy. So connecting this symbol, this scene, and infusing this scene with golden healing energy. I always start with golden healing energy frequency, and then as guided, use other colors if I'm guided to use other frequencies. And then reminding the energy of this symbol that we are here in this present moment, February 8th, 2026. So we are clearing energy that is outdated and misaligned, that got settled within us as a collective group of us. We're following this series, watching this video. At a time that perhaps we were working through a particular issue or concern, or maybe it was just a genuine neutral moment and there was judgment associated with a situation or experience, and that got attached to some falsehoods and belief systems and narratives that were not true, that we took on as truths. So, what seems to be connected to this symbol is the notion that we are preparing and presenting, right? Like we are offering this ice cream cone, or we're offering this lollipop, or we're offering this bouquet of flowers. And it's from this sincere place of like, the innocence of a child, right? Like a child that, doesn't hasn't learned how to judge the situation yet, hasn't learned how to criticize yet, hasn't learned how to, hold conditions for certain things. There's just a genuine, desire to like share and to offer, like, you know, you don't have any ice cream, I have some ice cream, um, here's, you can have some of mine, or you know I did kind of eat part of my lollipop already, but if you want some you can have some, right? Or you look kind of sad, so here's some flowers. I picked them out of the yard. They might be weeds, but it's the gesture, right? It's the gesture coming from that heart-centered, neutral, innocent, sincere place. And then you know the recipient is rejecting. It's like, well, those flowers are weeds, or they're wilting, or you already ate some of that, lollipop. Why would you offer me that if you've already, eaten some of it, and there's germs on it or whatever. It's like, oh, the ice cream is melting. Why would I want melted ice cream? So all of a sudden we're getting these we're being taught through this experience that there's conditions on the sincere giving, that we just wanted to give from our heart. We just wanted to give from that innocent place because we wanted to share, right? And then those experiences taught us that there's conditions, um, and they taught us incorrectly that there's just there's conditions, right? Um, those other folks that rejected our sincerity um, had already been taught about conditions, false conditions. Um, and so they were projecting that onto us. And then we took that on as truths and then associated value, self worth with that. Like, if we don't present in this particular way, if this has to be perfectly this way or that way in order for us to even be able to give of ourselves. Like, there's conditions on that that come associated with that. So thank you, QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons, for the messages coming through with this symbol, these symbols in this scene. So I would be surprised if if there's anybody out there that can't think of similar circumstances where even, as an adult, it continues, like you genuinely, may want to give of yourself or your, in a sincere way, and then the person that you're giving is rejecting it. And if you're giving of yourself, if you're giving of your time, if you're giving of your attention, um, and that is rejected as well, then it really if we've had that foundation of, you know something must be wrong if it's being rejected, something's wrong with me and how I'm presenting this or whatever, then that's like that perpetuating that um, conditioning that's actually representing something that's not true. So so Kuan Yin's Pink Dragons here just want us to remember that that has nothing to do with us. um, that that sincerity of intention is something that's worth holding on to. Um, that's where that transcendent unconditional love as a state of being comes into play. And what we're releasing here with this symbol is the conditions around giving, the conditions around giving from that place of transcendence, that transcendent neutral intention, sincere innocence, um, that judgment that created those conditions, those self-worth conditional things that um, have gotten all entangled into how we define what expressions of kindness are. So again, just appreciating the messages coming through and releasing that energy of judgment. And then sometimes we turn that judgment in on ourselves, and you know maybe they're right. Like, what's wrong with me that I would think to offer somebody melted ice cream or a flower that might be slightly wilted? You know, um, that's where the right and wrong karmic stuff starts to get formulated. Um, Loses sight of the real reason of, the true inspiration behind giving. So we're releasing all of these conditions that still want to hold on. And QUAN YIN'S pink dragons in this message, as this symbol is healing and clearing. I got the phrase like, be like a duck and let the water just roll off your back, right? Like, you know, how feathers, when, you know, like the water just beads off of the feathers of a bird, of the duck in the water. Like they just shake it off and it just beads off and rolls off your back. So, you know, it's kind of like that. Like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're missing out. You had an opportunity to, receive, and you're missing out. So moving on, and appreciating that. And that's not to say that you're, wishing that individual ill will, or that person that's expressing that judgment or condition. It's not that you're wishing them ill will or whatever. They're just, they are where they are on their journey, and it has nothing to do with you. And to just keep giving from that neutral, innocent, pure, sincere place, that place of love and kindness and compassion is a state of being. Love is a state of being with no conditions. And living from that place, expressing and moving through life from that place, um, will help keep that grounded state of neutrality, that detachment from the outcome, that investment in the outcome of them wanting to receive your gift. When you're not attached to that, um, you're not being defined by um, that outcome that you have focused intention on wanting to receive. So just continuing to heal this symbol on this day, February 8th, 2026. It's almost clear. It is kind of stubborn. There's so many conditions on love, so many conditions on love. And it's okay to let them go when we recognize and realize they don't fit, that the definitions don't fit and don't serve, the narratives don't fit and don't serve. Recognizing that our discernment is becoming more keen, and it's okay to let them go, even if we don't have yet a clear picture understanding of a new narrative yet. Because when we are grounded in that neutral place, our still point, that natural state of being will just arise within us. I know it sounds a little like possibly hard to comprehend or believe that it seems to be that straightforward, but our natural, neutral, grounded state of being as souls having human experiences is love. In a similar way that one might say God is love, or that Christ light is love, that divine energetic influence that illuminates all things, that divinity that illuminates all things, that is of all things, moves through all things. That includes us. That includes us. Um, so love is that way of being, that state of being. Okay, there it goes. All right, that symbol is clear. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging in there with me tonight with this message, these messages from QUAN YIN'S Pink Dragons. Bringing firm love that resets our karmic balance, seeing all of our cords that no longer serve us dissolved by transcendent love as a state of being and not an expressed emotion, and enjoying our freedom from those cords, allowing us to see the divinity not only within ourselves but with others around us. From that grounded, neutral, still point, heart centered, expansive, still point. So I know that this has been a long um, recording, a long video, live video, but I did want to share a reflection from last week with the water dragons. So the water dragons helping us to flow easily around obstacles. That Christ light and love are flowing, developing our psychic abilities, going with the flow. And in that context, that Christ light is um, that divine influence that illuminates us and all things around us. Um, that helps us to um, connect in with that higher consciousness that we have been cultivating a relationship with to fully embody as we move through our human experiences. So, the reflection that I just wanted to share is regarding obstacles. So, for me, the reflection is interesting. Me, when I'm using my mind to think about something and I'm getting hyper focused and I'm attaching to desired outcomes in a way that I'm expending a lot of mental energy thinking about it. And, I have concerns that if I don't achieve this outcome, what's going to happen? And there's that attachment to that outcome. Then what I've realized with regard to the water dragons is I'm creating the obstacle when I do that. Like I'm getting in my own way. And um, so getting out of my own way is helping, is when I'm going to be able to then flow easily around the obstacle. So it was an interesting way to have that sort of realization come to me. Um, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to avoid the potentially difficult, challenging, heavy, tumultuous situation. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to always necessarily just avoid it. If there's a lesson in it, if there's an aligned purpose and reason for me to move through the experience, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And every experience is an opportunity. I've said this before. Every experience is an opportunity to learn, to have further understanding about myself, how I relate to the circumstance or situation in the world around me, to grow and heal. So, if there is an experience that feels like an obstacle or a challenge, um, that I want to um, figure out, it's not about moving around it to avoid it. And um, when when I'm working so hard to try to figure it out, um, if it's hard to explain, it's almost like it's almost like trying to so it's almost like if I'm building all of these thoughts, patterns and conditions and frameworks around how I want to get to that goal, that's in and of itself kind of creating the obstacle because I'm not allowing for the experience to flow, ebb and flow in a natural way. Um, so by getting out of my own way, by allowing the natural flow of things, the experience to move along in a divinely guided way rather than me trying to be in control of it, um, then that actually is how I'm going to be able to overcome the obstacle. And it's often about moving through the experience and going with the flow of the experience, which in turn is like moving around that obstacle. So, if that makes any sense. So, anyhow, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience as I shared that reflection that I guess I'm still kind of working out in my own ways, but getting out of my own way, letting the natural ebb and flow of things happen without being feeling the need to be in control. Um, all right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.